So much of the health industry, the healthcare system is all about reactivity. You get sick, you go to the doctor and then you fix it. But we need to be so much more preventative. And I think longevity is an extra step beyond that. It's not just preventative health, it's actually getting the most out of your life. A lot of people are in denial and a lot of people minimize some of the ways in which their childhood affects them in adulthood. And I'm not saying we should all sit around and wallow in our pain and whinge, but I think it is really useful to know how your coping mechanisms that you set up during childhood have served you or not served you as an adult. When I launched the podcast, I was in a state of high anxiety for so long. I was nervous about sharing my story. I don't have any shame around it at all, but there's too much stigma, and that's exactly why I had to step up and talk about it.
I'm Sigourney and welcome to Beautiful Inside. I've been a beauty and health journalist reporting on how to be beautiful on the outside for 22 years. Now I want to explore inner beauty as well. I've been influenced to make this shift by my own mental health journey, and it's prompted me to look for people like me who are willing to share their story. How do they care for their inner self while also attending to the outer? What have they learned about finding strength and courage and happiness in today's ever more challenging world? And what are the strategies that they've found to maintain that radiance, that joie de vivre, the inner spark that comes about when our minds and bodies are in balance? Come with me as we go inside the homes, routines, and inner lives of fascinating people. We'll discuss the science and psychology of beauty and self-care and give you the tools to look and feel the very best you ever have, inside and out. This episode is proudly brought to you by Synternals, the new premium supplement brand powered by Synergy Skin. When it came to finding a sponsor for my first season, Synergy Skin was the first brand I actually approached. Not only do I love using their skincare, but I adore the brand founder, Terry Vincent-Jones. We've been friends for years and I've co-hosted many of their events, including their latest debut, Synternals. Terry, who is a cosmetic chemist and an author, she wrote the incredible book Skinformation, is just a wealth of knowledge, and she's my oracle when it comes to all things longevity and inner health. In fact, every time I see her, I whip out my notebook and take notes on everything she's taking, from supplements, her diet, and her exercise. She looks absolutely incredible, but she also is a shining example of how inner beauty radiates from someone. She has this beautiful warmth, energy, vitality that just comes through in everything she creates. Both the skincare and the supplements are made in Australia, and they only contain potent ingredients that are proven to work. They're the perfect blend of science and nature. It's no surprise then that Terry's latest creation, Synternals, is equally impressive from an efficacy and ingredient standpoint. But what I love most about them is that they're designed to boost your beauty and health from the inside out, which is exactly what we're all about here at Beautiful Inside. Beautiful Inside acknowledges the traditional custodians of the land that this podcast is recorded on, and we pay our respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
So welcome to Beautiful Inside. So this is my first official solo ep. It's what I'm calling the Sacred Six, and I'm trying to do them as my sixth episode every season, where I bring you the latest protocols, products, practices that I'm using to look and feel and perform better. I ask my guests every episode as well for their Sacred Six, and it's been really interesting hearing some of the answers. So today I'll tell you what my six are before I begin. So I've got hypnotherapy, the diet, specifically mostly the Mediterranean diet, heat, supplements, LED, and longevity protocols. So I'm going to cover all of those things. We also have a really exciting subscriber giveaway thanks to our beautiful sponsors, Synergy Skin and Synternals. So stay tuned for more information about that at the end of the app. I've got my little friend Rebel here. He's fast asleep. Oh, until I woke him up. And I feel like we should start this Sacred Six practice by lighting some incense. Now I really feel like we can start the Sacred Six. So, number one, hypnotherapy. Vanessa Donlan, who is based on the Northern Beaches, she actually was following me and she contacted me about some of my posts. And I reached out to her and I said, I'd love to try it. So we had some sessions and I found it profoundly relaxing. She was a skin therapist turned hypnotherapist. So here I am. This is me about to have a session with Vanessa. I can actually credit hypnotherapy and my sessions with Vanessa for having this idea for the podcast. I had some incredible sessions with her last year. This is before I went to South Pacific Private, before I had, everything was reaching a breaking point. I was feeling very stressed out. I wasn't seeing a therapist yet. I tried therapy over the years and just found that I just didn't connect with any of my therapists. And I think, I think obviously it's such an important thing is to have a good relationship with your therapist and to really find someone who you feel is going to help you. And I didn't find anyone by that stage. But when I went to see Vanessa, she didn't want to go, she wanted to know what I wanted to help with and working on, but she didn't want to go back, year by year through my childhood and relive those things. And she said that hypnotherapy is often really powerful for people who don't want to re-engage with trauma, they don't want to relive things, or for whom talk therapy hasn't worked for in the past. So she basically, with hypnotherapy, you enter a meditative state.
All right, just breathe a few breaths. Allow yourself to soften. And we're going to imagine your subconscious mind, that chip in your computer that runs you with every event in your life on that chip. We're going to imagine that that's going to float up out of you over to the past, to that time when you're about 5 years old, the time that you very first felt that emotion of anxiety, that feeling of anxiety. And I want you to imagine floating up, that subconscious mind floating up, going over to the past, all the way back to an event when you were 5. Be right up above that event, looking down.
You are super relaxed, and it's under this situation that you go back into memories, or you go into visualizations in your mind, and you're sort of quite suggestible. So your therapist can give you ideas and help you reframe memories. So we did I think it's a bit like NLP what we did. We went through my childhood and we relived some emotional memories around anger, fear, sadness, loneliness, I think. And somehow Vanessa taught me or showed me how, with my current knowledge and my current understanding, how I was able to reframe some of these painful memories into something that was positive, and that I was able to see the positive that had come out of these instances. So it's incredibly powerful work. So the other thing I'm doing is I am looking at my diet, because I've been so run down, I've been so exhausted, I'm not sleeping well. I've got all these health issues like reflux, like chronic reflux. I've been thinking maybe it's my gallbladder. I've seen a gastro, I've seen a surgeon, and now I'm seeing a nutritionist. So I've been working with Christiana Velis, and she's amazing. She's really knowledgeable about hormones, about women's health.
Apple cider vinegar. I love a lot of vinegar. Good for post-meal blood glucose levels. And of course olive oil, because the Mediterranean diet doesn't go without it. Half an avocado, all the fats. Mix it up, and there's your delicious lunch.
I use Practice Better, which is an app where you plot your day, your daily journals, your mood, your symptoms, even your poo. You have to track everything. And we've done a bunch of testing, and she's basically put me on a diet. I'll have a look at the protocol that she's given me. So, slow down when you're eating. That's a big one. I've got to moderate my gluten, because what she thinks is that I'm a little bit sensitive to gluten. So the more I eat of it, it kind of builds up until it then starts having almost like an allergic reaction. So I have to just dial it back, focusing on a Mediterranean diet. So adding salmon to breakfast with my toast, try and have gluten-free toast every now and then, or really good quality sourdough, goat's cheese, and a lot more protein. So I'm having to have like a couple of eggs a few times a week. Also trying to eat 2 kiwi fruit a day to help with my constipation. Apparently 2 kiwi fruit a day is equivalent to using something like Osmolax, but much better for you, because you're getting all that vitamin C and fiber. So that's a good tip. Focusing on vegetables, a lot more protein, veggies, and just keeping minimal processed foods. It's pretty obvious stuff. When you actually do start to look at your diet and focus on the pillars, diet, exercise, sleep. And this is what my therapist talks to me about constantly. She's like, are your pillars there? When your emotions and your mood are affecting you, go back to the pillars. And then that's nutrition, rest, and exercise. So exercise-wise, that probably brings me to heat. So my next practice from a Sacred Six perspective is heat. It's the middle of winter here. It's freezing today. I'm sitting here with my blanket on my knees. I've got the heater on. I really suffer from the cold. My circulation is terrible. So what I've been doing is, of an evening, I get really sore back. So I've got a sauna blanket. The brand I use is My High. I'll show you some vision of what it looks like, me using it. But basically, I just roll it out and put it on the couch. I usually just do it in front of the TV with the kids because we can just all relax, and it's kind of a way for me to soothe myself, self-soothe when I'm feeling a little bit, that feeling when you come home and you're just like so tired and everything hurts and you just, ugh. And so saunas are great. And I would love to have a sauna in my home, and maybe one day. I am dreaming about it. But for now, the sauna blanket is a really good alternative. It's not as sweaty as you think. I mean, it's very sweaty, but you wear clothes. So I'll wear a full tracksuit and it's hot. So you sweat, but you sweat into your tracksuit and then you just wash it. So the blanket itself, I get out, it's not wet. There might be a little bit of perspiration around the neck or the back where, it's come out, my tracksuit. But you just clean it every time and it doesn't smell. It's made of like this plasticky stuff. So if you don't have a sauna blanket or a sauna, hot baths. Hot baths are my other mainstay. It's something I do almost every day. And in fact, I was seeing a kinesiologist the other day. So I'm trying everything. I do try a lot of different things. And she was telling me that I shouldn't be bathing every night in Epsom salts as I've been doing. I should be bathing in magnesium chloride, because it can actually absorb magnesium into the body, whereas Epsom salts draws out minerals from the body. So she said, not good for you. She said you really must get some magnesium chloride, because apparently using it topically, you can actually get a lot of the benefits of magnesium. Because I don't know, I don't always want to take another supplement at night. I take some in the morning, some at lunchtime. I'm like all supplemented and tableted out by the end of the day. So if I could have a bath in magnesium chloride, rub it all over my body, and it's still going to work the same. Oh, the other thing, I'm spraying it on my feet. This is Brillo Beauty. This is Lee Campbell, good friend of mine's business. And I spray the oil on my feet at bedtime. I've only just started doing that. But yeah, I think it's helping. And the other thing is what I bathe in. So yes, I bathe in magnesium chloride, but this one is also my other favorite, Welita's products. So this one is the Arnica Muscle Soak. And these products, they just smell so amazing. And they're all organic, biodynamic, beautiful products. So the Arnica one is really good for sore muscles and inflammation. And the other thing I do for heat is hot yoga. So I go to Modern Movement, which is a yoga studio in Mona Vale and Balgowlah on Sydney's Northern Beaches, and it's beautiful. There's a beautiful olive tree in the corner, and I just sit myself in front of the olive tree, and it's just, I don't know, there's something so peaceful. And they've got linen curtains and the light filters through the curtains, and then it's heated. You don't have to do heated classes. They've got like non-heated. But it's just, I mean, yoga has been for me truly like cornerstone of Sacred Six. When I went to South Pacific Private last year, which if you haven't heard my story, listen to episodes 2 and 3 where I talk about going to a treatment centre. And it's a psychiatric hospital essentially, but I was there for anxiety and depression, and it was amazing. But basically, while I was there, I even taught some yoga classes randomly, because what they did was if the yoga teacher wasn't available, they would ask the community to all, take jobs. And so with my fairly limited, I've been doing yoga for 20 years, but I've never taught a class, and I was amazed. I even amazed myself. I was pretty nervous, but yeah, all that aside, yoga is like my spiritual home. I find I know that sounds wanky and cheesy and stuff, but it is so good for the soul. I think, even scientifically, if you look at it, the breath, the balance, the stillness, the holds, the muscular hold, it's hard. It's actually really hard. And if you do it in a heated room, which I like to do, you're getting you get your cardiovascular up, you get kind of the heat, it makes you that little bit able to stretch a little bit more. I'm not very bendy. I'm not a naturally flexible person, but when I do yoga in a heated room, it's definitely helpful. And I just find it so relaxing. I come out and I'm like much better human. My family likes me more. I don't yell so much. So yeah, I find if I go on a Saturday morning, like I'm good for the weekend. Sunday evening is great. Yeah, highly recommend hot yoga. Okay, number 4, supplements. So the supplements I'm using, again, I'm not a doctor. This is just my own experience and what I've found helps. I really like the B12 drops. This is MTHFR brand. Now, I haven't done the test yet, but apparently, according to my kinesiologist, she reckons, just judging by my symptoms, that I do have the MTHFR gene, which is known as the motherfucker gene. I don't know if you've heard of that, but I need to do some testing and find out. But these are the methylated versions of these B12 and folate that is actually better absorbed by people who I believe carry that gene. I'm taking Centernals, so Centernals Energize Plus, which is a NAD booster. So that's really good for energy when your diet is insufficient, I have to say. Also, I'm on a zinc supplement and probiotics, EHA, fish oils, vitamin D plus K2 magnesium. So that's really good for the vitamin D levels, which were not quite so great. I've got the Tri-Zinc Supreme. This is Designs for Health. And I'm doing the Gut Revive. So basically I'm just focusing on rebuilding my gut because, yeah, I had a look at my results, my stool sample results. I did a comprehensive stool analysis and it was like it maps your whole gut microbiome. And yeah, I'm in a massive state of inflammation. My calprotectin levels are through the roof. But basically all that means is that it's not surprising I've got the major gastro upsets and constipation, and yeah, I'm a mess. So Christiana's got me focusing on, really populating the gut with healthy bacteria. I've got to do, sauerkraut and kefir and things like that, but also lots of probiotics. So that's this Floromyces one is apparently really good after you've had antibiotics, which I have just had for my eye. I had a chalazion on my eye. Honestly, it's been quite a month. Like health-wise, everything's been falling apart. And I think when I launched the podcast, I was in a state of high anxiety for so long because I was working so hard on getting all the content in place and the messaging right, and I was nervous about sharing my story. I was scared. There was so much, there's so much in admitting that you need help and that you've taken help and that, I don't have any shame around it at all, but it's still, there's too much stigma, and that's exactly why I had to step up and talk about it, because there's too much stigma attached to it. And I've had so many beautiful messages from you guys. Like there's so many of us feel the same way. So many women in particular, but I've also had messages from guys who are, at burnout and exhaustion stage, anxiety, ADHD, depression, so many, childhood trauma, DV, horrible relationships that they're in, and just feeling like they said, a lot of them have said thank you for sharing this because it validates what I'm feeling, and that's what was so amazing about the work that I did at South Pacific. Like I felt nervous to go in there because, when you're in there amongst, people with all sorts of issues, and including drug and alcohol and people who are at real rock bottom, I was like, they're going to laugh me out of here. I'm so privileged. I'm very, in a comfortable place. I've got family around me to support me and friends. A lot of these people, had reached lows with their family. Like they couldn't go back to their parents. They couldn't go back to their partners. Shit had hit the fan. And I thought they're just going to laugh at me. But when we were all in our group talking about our childhood, so you had to do like a history of yourself from 0 to 20 and talk about everything that happened to you. And when you do that work in a group setting, it's so powerful because you're witnessed and you're validated and everyone gives feedback. And when you give the feedback, they're not allowed to relate it to their own experience. It's all like they teach you how to give feedback from a place of constructive, a way to actually hold space for people's emotions. And it's amazing work, and you are left feeling this sense of humanity and this universality, and there really is, no matter what type of trauma you have, or, you know, they talk about the big T and the little t trauma. It's the kind of concept that, you know, big T trauma are all the ones that you can imagine, you know, like sexual abuse, war, physical abuse, like all the obvious stuff. Little t trauma is much more subtle. And when it comes to a child does not know the difference between the emotions that they feel, often from some of the physical stuff, versus some of the emotional stuff. So if their primary caregiver isn't nurturing them, or, you know, they're suffering, you know, great fear and loneliness and rejection for one reason or another, that is still significant childhood trauma. And what I've learned is that there's this thing called the Adverse Childhood Experiences Index, I think it's called, and it's ACE test. So if you want to know about your trauma, which I think is helpful to know, because I think a lot of people are in denial, and a lot of people minimize some of the ways in which their childhood affects them in adulthood. And I'm not saying we should all sit around and wallow in our pain and whinge, but I think it is really useful to know how your coping mechanisms that you set up during childhood have served you or not served you as an adult. Because what happens is, you know, minimizing is one of them. And this is also what I learned at South Pacific Privates, SPP. I'll just call it SPP from now on. I know I'm always referring to them, but I learned so much about, you know, coping mechanisms and childhood. And so we, you know, minimizing is one of them, where you just excuse your pain, you make it smaller. There's a whole list of them. I should get my book out. There's something I just happen to have sitting here. I don't really refer to this enough, but this is my inpatient handbook. Vulnerability. Look, we had a whole lecture on vulnerability. ACA Essentials. Oh yeah, so that's the adult children of alcoholics and dysfunctional families. So this is like a support group for anyone who's had a dysfunctional childhood. It doesn't have to be just children of alcoholics, but you can go and you can do the 12-step program, and you can get a sponsor. So vulnerability, there was a whole lecture on that. Oh, that's really good. Growth, connection. We did lectures on neuroscience, addiction and trauma, self-esteem. So this is when I came out of SPP, I had an amazing toolkit of things to do when I was feeling dysregulated, and it's really helped me to teach the kids, because part of the reason I went in was because I was feeling overwhelmed when the kids would have meltdowns and they'd have these big emotions, and it terrified me. I think it brought back stuff from my childhood, conflict and various things, but I couldn't deal with it. And so I used to just yell back, and then that would make me feel terrible afterwards. Or I would punish, like I would take stuff away, you know, take Max's screen time away, or, you know, I was just explosive. I had no ability to calm my own mental state. And so when I was at SPP, you know, we did these lectures, plus we did trauma work, where we did some stuff like chair work and parts work, where you basically, it's a bit similar to the stuff I did in hypnosis, where you go into really deep state of relaxation and you talk to your parents or abusers, or, you know, the kids at school, but basically whoever's caused you the trauma, you meet up with your inner child and you get strong, you put your barriers in place. And this is all happening in your group, in front of your group. So you're in a deep state of hypnosis, and then the therapist takes you there, then they arm you with all this like strength, your inner child or your inner teenager, and then you go and confront the people who caused you pain. And again, often with parents, they don't mean to cause you pain. I don't mean to cause my kids pain. I don't blame my mum and dad for what they went through. They were doing the best they could at the time they could with the resources they had. But, you know, like, we know more now about the brain and, you know, neuroscience and attachment. And so the things that they thought they were doing that was best was not best. And for me, I had probably additional needs because I was undiagnosed ADHD, I had anxiety. They didn't know that. I mean, no one really talked about that stuff back then. So we're so much better equipped to deal with this stuff now. Defense mechanisms. Aha, yes. So some of the other defense mechanisms: dissociation, minimization, denial, rationalization and intellectualizing, manipulation, caretaking. I knew a few people who were on caretaking contracts when we were in SPP. So, you know, like there's always that person who, you know, one of the rules at SPP is that when you're sharing and you're like having a cry, no one's allowed to pass you a tissue because that's sort of seen as caretaking. Anyways, you know, there's always those people who will put themselves out just to help someone, and it's so beautiful. It's such a beautiful thing, but it means they're often not looking after their own emotional needs. Catastrophizing, that was me. I had a contract for catastrophizing. And perfectionism, that was my other contract. So people get put on contracts if in their primary group they're displaying certain defense mechanisms. So it's super interesting stuff. Acting out, passive aggression, intriguing. Oh, that was a funny one. So intriguing is a form of flirting, checking up on, or giving special attention to one person. Exchanged glances, fantasy, exclusivity with others as a means to distract oneself from feeling and being in reality. So it's a little trip down memory lane. LED light. So I am a huge fan of LED light. I use LED masks all the time. So I've got this Cure one here that lives in the office because it's a shorter treatment time. And then I have this one that sits upstairs next to my bed. This is the Sandler one because it's 20 minutes. So I'll often do this when I meditate in the morning because I really like the red light. I find it really soothing. It's very lightweight. I can wear it while meditating. This Cure one is great for the blue light, or if I just need an additional, it's actually got targeted treatment zones in the face. So you can actually put the app on and I can do blue light on my chin and red light everywhere else. So that is amazing. These are my two favorites. And the other thing I recently got is the infrared LED panel, Pro Max I think it's called, and that has been amazing. So my nightly ritual will be, when possible, when there's time, sauna blanket and then shower, or hot bath, and then I'll come and sit in the nude or, you know, in front of the infrared, and I'll just sit there and just, you know, either meditate, do some breathing, do a bit of journaling, read my book. Sometimes I'll even get into bed with the infrared panel. I don't know if you're supposed to do this, but I lie next to it and just have it along my back because it's like this long, you know, and I'll read, and yeah, and then I'll sort of I'll treat myself like a rotisserie chicken and I'll just rotate in front of the light. I'm actually thinking I might even put it here and have it on when I work. I mean, you can't get too much LED, can you? I think that's great. And finally, longevity protocols. So on Friday, I went to see Dr. Adam Brown in Double Bay, and he is starting the Longevity Medicine Institute, I think it's called. They're just rebranding now. They basically do a full longevity assessment. So prior to the appointment, I went and had blood tests, very comprehensive blood tests, and a very comprehensive stool analysis, which was basically like a science experiment with my poo. You never have been up this close and personal to your poo before, but you basically have to put it in lots of little different vials and like sample pots, and wow. But what it did was, it was fascinating. So first of all, I went along on Friday. I had a session with Adam, and he did some extra tests. I'll have to find out the name of all of them, but there was like a carotid or artery one. There was like a DEXA scan, which does your full body composition, your body fat versus muscle, various like bone density things. So they're basically looking at the major leading causes of disease and illness and looking at your likelihood of getting those things, and they want to basically come up with a score. So they're working on a dashboard, like a health span, lifespan dashboard, that you'll be able to see your score, and as you work on different lifestyle factors over time, hopefully that score will go. I think you want a lower score. Is the score the same as an age? Anyway, I think I don't know if it's a score out of 100 or if it's a score that's equivalent to your age, like your biological age, or how it works, but the idea is that you want to see a shift on the needle on the different factors. So I did the DEXA scan, which was fascinating. I do have to work on my muscle, like my strength, because I do yoga and there's a bit of strength there, but definitely in terms of weight bearing exercise. So I know that now. And these are all things that I felt so empowered after this session. I came out and I said to Biba, who's Adam's wife, so this is a, husband and wife team run it. They're just the loveliest people. And it's also an exquisite space. Like, the design of it is amazing. Very double bay, very beautiful, very designed. But I just said to them that what they've created there is really unique. I haven't seen anything like that in Australia. And so after all my medical assessments, so Dr. Adam Brown, he was a GP and he's a skin cancer specialist and dermatologist. And then he's been doing a lot of aesthetic treatments in Sydney in Double Bay. So they've had their clinic for a while, but now they've just decided to really, I think they're still doing aesthetic treatments. So they're doing the two parallel because skin and longevity are very, often people who are interested in both. But he has got great knowledge of and interest in longevity. So after my session with him, I went in to see the nutritionist, Georgia, who is lovely and so knowledgeable. So she had my full stool analysis and she took me through some interesting stuff. Like, I had no idea how much inflammation I had in my gut. It's potentially like leaky gut territory, which is not great, but it's all stuff that we can fix. And the good news is I have no parasites. I did do a black wormwood cleanse a little while ago, which I just bought some black wormwood off iHerb because Lulu had a parasite and she was refusing to take it. So I just took it. And here's a tip. If you can't stand the taste of something, you can buy little clear capsules from Amazon. They arrived the next day. I just put the droppers in the capsules and I took it for a few days. And she thinks that's probably what got rid of, because judging by the state of my gut, I should have definitely had some parasites. So I reckon that black wormwood thing is a bit of a goer. But yeah, my gut is bad. I'm waiting for all my results from the guys. But basically, if you're interested in this, let me know because I will do a whole episode about it. It was fascinating. I filmed everything. I then had a session with the PT and Dasha, and she was amazing. She made me do all these different tests. I mean, they're all functional sort of mobility tests and stuff, but I have always thought of myself as a bit of a runt. Like, I was not strong at school. I was a premature baby. I was always sick. I always had my whole life, look at me. I've always had health problems. And I didn't do any sports at school. I did debating, I did drama. I was very studious, but I was not very sporty. And so I've always kind of held on to this notion that I'm not sporty, I'm not strong. But she told me that I actually killed a lot of those tests. She's like, no, that's a really high score. So I just wanted to hug her. It was like the best day ever. And also Dr. Adam told me that I don't have this gene that I was worried about because my mum's family have got this, I think it's called hypercholesteremia, something like that. But basically it makes you more susceptible to heart attacks because a lot of my mum's side, the men particularly, have passed from early heart attacks. So mum's got the gene, but I don't, which I'm very happy about. I'm very sad mum does, but she just has to really manage her cholesterol. But with these things, people get scared about finding out, these health things, but it's just, knowledge is power. You've got to empower yourself. I reckon that this longevity assessment with Dr. Adam would make a beautiful sort of 50th birthday gift. I know it's probably quite expensive. They haven't given me the cost of it yet because they did it obviously as a media thing for me, but it won't be cheap because, you're having your every assessment done under the sun. You've got this beautiful place. You're working with, Dr. Adam Brown and, you've got the nutritionist and the physical person. But it would be, I'm sure it's a bit of an investment, but that would make an amazing gift. I would want that for my 40th or 50th birthday because, yeah, you feel just so powerful. You feel so much more empowered when you have this knowledge, when you know going forward. Now I know exactly what I need to focus on with my diet. Well, I will. So in the coming weeks, I think in 2 weeks' time, I've got another appointment with the team and I'm going to be given all my results and then all my protocols and everything I'm to do going forward to try and make myself live as long as I possibly can. And I think longevity is such an interesting area and there's so much more we understand and we're finding out more all the time. Biohacking is something I'm also really interested in, so hence why I'm using heat and light and all these various things at our disposal. So I think we're incredibly lucky. We're we're in the knowledge age, you know, we're in this age of hyper awareness. We've got so much information at our fingertips, and we've got so much technology and innovation to really combat, you know, many of the problems with aging, you know, and so much of the health industry or the healthcare system is all about reactivity, you know, like you get sick, you go to the doctor and then you fix it. But we need to be so much more preventative, and I think longevity is an extra step beyond that. It's not just preventative health, it's actually getting the most out of your lifespan and health span. So on that note, I am going to go back. I'm going to go and have that sauna blanket now, I think. I'm feeling a little bit So it was a pleasure talking to you. I would love to know, out of these 6 things, hypnotherapy, diet, Mediterranean diet, heat, supplements, LED light, and longevity protocols, if there was one of those that particularly interested you, if you'd like to see a whole episode on it. And until then, I'd love to hear your sacred 6. If you've got any, you know, protocols, practices, or products that you swear by for inner health and happiness and outer beauty, but inner and outer beauty, please comment on YouTube, comment on my Instagram, DM us, whatever you like. I'm here. I'm at your disposal. Hope you enjoyed this episode. As always, please follow us, subscribe to us, rate and review. Your support means the world to me. It's why I'm getting up every day. I'm so excited by this work, and I'm so thrilled to hear that it's resonating with people. And I feel so grateful that I get to do this for work. I can't wait to hear from you. I'll see you next time. I really hope you enjoyed that episode. We have been getting the most incredible feedback on Beautiful Inside, and to celebrate, we want to do a special gift for our subscribers. So Synergy Skin and Sinternals have very kindly given us 5 incredible boxes of my favorite products to give away. So very quickly, I'll tell you why these are my favorite products from the range. So this is Ultra Cleanse. This is a beautiful product. It's a pH balance cleanser. It's really hydrating, doesn't strip the skin, does get a bit of lather on it when you add water, so it really feels like it cleans the skin really well, but it doesn't strip. So this is the vitamin B. This is 13% niacinamide. It's very potent. It's really beautiful to use, very lightweight. Basically, that strengthens your skin barrier function. Hylavive. This is a triple hyaluronic acid serum with a triceramide complex, so it's just full of the most hydrating ingredients you can imagine. Retifol. Now, a lot of retinols are problematic for people. This is an encapsulated retinol combined with a gentle acid-free exfoliating peptide technology. It's also BHT and BHA free. It's an amazing way of getting an active, stable form of retinol. Uber Zinc is a bit of a cult product, a protective daily moisturizer with zinc oxide, but it's a really high potency. 21% mineral zinc oxide. So this is great for those really sensitive skins, acneic skins who really struggle to find a sunscreen that they can wear, that they can tolerate. Or if you want to have a very natural sunscreen that doesn't have any chemicals in it. SPF 15, but it's fine to wear it out in the sun as long as you reapply it. What I love about these products is they're clean. They don't contain any chemical nasties, anything questionable, anything that you don't want to have on your skin. This is the new baby from Synergy Skin. It's Sinternals Energize Plus. This is a NAD booster. So when your dietary intake is inadequate, it elevates the cellular NAD plus levels in mature adults. It maintains skin health and hydration, supports cellular energy and repair, supports nervous system health, and assists in the efficient breakdown of carbohydrates, fats and proteins, supports healthy gut lining for digestive wellness and nutrient absorption, reduces free radical damage in the body. So it's a bit of a do-it-all supplement. I will put all the details in the show notes on how to enter. So good luck!
Thank you for joining me on this episode of Beautiful Inside. If you enjoyed this, the best thing you can do is share it with a friend, leave a review, or give us a rating. This podcast is for informational purposes only and is not a substitute for medical advice. If the content triggers you in any way, please contact Lifeline or Beyond Blue. Contact details in our show notes.